Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Tuesday, October 29, 2024. And still a bit going on in the boxing world. I've got a couple of months obviously before the end of the year, but still plenty to play out. One thing that did play out, interestingly, if that's the word, last night on Talking Boxing was Mike Tyson. I sort of, because when you do a 2-hour show, sometimes you think, well, what are we going to talk about? You know, there's the usual things. There's a little bit of especially last night, there's a bit of the spillover of the Tim Tszyu thing, and a couple other things popped up, but all of a sudden Mike Tyson's name comes up. And I can't remember whether it was about talking about the Jake Paul fight, or I can't remember. I'm sure that would have been maybe the catalyst of the conversation, but we spent a lot of time talking about Mike Tyson, and he's such a polarising figure. It might have actually came about because we were talking about Muhammad Ali, the video I did yesterday about Muhammad Ali and George Foreman, the 50-year anniversary, and I was talking about an icon, or what an icon Muhammad Ali was and still is. And the fact that Mike Tyson is probably, while he might not be as applauded or revered as Muhammad Ali, I think his name will still go down as iconic, and in 50 years time we'll still be talking about that bad man Mike Tyson. But we got onto his career, and it's probably the most heated discussion we've had in the comment section. But it was good because it was respectful, and there was probably about half a dozen people that were laying the boots into Mike Tyson, and there was probably 15 people who were saying, well, that's ridiculous and Mike's done this and done that. But it was a healthy chat, let's just say. Look, my point of view on it all, and I made it quite clear on the night, is that Mike Tyson, I don't agree with the people that say he was, in the top, 3 or 4 greatest heavyweights of all time. But I certainly don't agree with the other side who say that he was overrated, he was a hype job, and lost all the big fights and all that sort of stuff. Because I just think he gets judged differently to other heavyweights. And there was one comment in there I remember, I can't remember who it was from, who said that, he lost all the big heavyweight fights or the title fights he was in, which is ridiculous because I think he had 9 or 10 defences before he lost the belt, so that just doesn't hold water. And then said, well, you can't rate him because his competition was shit, so it made him look good. But on the other hand, my argument is that, well, if you're going by that logic, then you would have to put a line through Rocky Marciano and even someone like Joe Louis, who the competition they had probably wasn't overly great either. They obviously went through the competition they had. But I just said that you can't hold Mike Tyson to that, rating his legacy based on the competition around at the time, which I actually thought was quite good. At the end of the day, he cleaned out the entire division. Another dog behind us there, but yeah, cleaned out the entire division, bar none. And yes, it went pear-shaped for him later on, but that was my argument. How can you, because a lot of people on one hand will run Mike Tyson down, but on the other hand, they'll praise someone like Rocky Marciano up, and I'm not getting into Rocky Marciano bashing here this morning, but they'll praise him up as being one of the greatest heavyweights of all time and run Mike Tyson down. Now, my argument again to that was, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, by the way, I'm just sort of recapping, but my argument to that was, well, Rocky Marciano's 4 biggest wins were Joe Louis, Ezzard Charles, Jersey Joe Walcott and Archie Moore. And all 4 of them were well and truly past the prime, nowhere near the prime. So how can you be praising Rocky Marciano on one hand and running Mike Tyson down the other? That was my argument anyway, but it was a bit of fun, and I'm not sure your point of view. I'm sure you'll put it in the comments, but I just think, okay, maybe Mike Tyson wasn't that baddest man on the planet that he said he was, but I just think we will never know, because just like Muhammad Ali, and that's where the comparisons came in from memory as well, is that both fighters had one massive thing in common, and that is we missed out on the best 3 years of their lives, maybe even 4 years, because you might be out for 3 years, but it takes you a year just to shake off that rust and sort of get back into the swing of things. So we missed the peak years of Muhammad Ali, and we missed the peak years of Mike Tyson. And I can't remember, again, someone said, especially when Mike Tyson, that's, that's a Mike Tyson cult. And I've got a friend that said that he could the exact date of Mike Tyson's prime, and the dates were coincidentally the day he won the title from Trevor Berbick and the day he knocked out Carl the Truth Williams about 2.5 years later. And then after that was the Douglas fight, and it all went sort of downhill from there. But I had to say, I hate to tell you, but that's actually true. That was Mike Tyson's prime years, and the scary thing is he was only 23 or 24 years old. So anyway, but having said that, I understand if you're one of the people out there that think Mike Tyson was severely overrated. I get it. I'm just saying it's okay to say that, but if you're going to do that, you have to hold all the other fighters in a similar position to the same standard, and that includes our beloved Rocky Marciano. And Joe Louis, he had 25 defences, but who were they really against? That's all I'm saying. And Larry Holmes, again, here's another one. Before I move on, Larry Holmes is probably another quick one who didn't have a lot to play with during his career and made, what did he make, 16 defences or whatever it was, got to 48-0. In my opinion, is the third, number 3 heavyweight on the all-time list. But again, he gets looked at a little bit differently as well because he wasn't part of the Ali era and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, I'll let you guys argue amongst yourselves in the chat. But I just wanted to say, hey, I love Mike Tyson, and I'm just pissed that he took this fight with Jake Paul. I just think it might hurt his legacy a little bit, and we're remembering him in 50 years' time for the wrong reasons. But anyway, all right, on to some news of the day. And Jai Opetaia has been mandated by the IBF to fight, is it Hussein Sin Cara or Chin Cara? We'll call him Sin Cara, in the next defence of his IBF belt. Now, typically of the IBF, whether it's good or bad, they've mandated this fight. One, they've mandated it, which means they're actually forcing the champions to fight their mandatories, and we've seen that a fair bit lately, stripping fighters, and quite wrongly, I think, in some respects, like Usyk and Beterbiev, or not stripping Beterbiev, but forcing him to fight this unknown, is he a Frenchman or German or something like that? Stripping Canelo Alvarez for not fighting William Skull. But whatever, that's another situation or another circumstance. But with Jai, I had a bit of a look at this Sin Cara. I'd never heard of him before, I'm being honest. I'd seen his name in the rankings and never bothered to really even have a look at him, but I did yesterday. Went through YouTube and got as much footage as I could of him. And look, he's going to be tough. Is he 39 years old, pushing 40 years old? That's probably the first thing, but very, very raw. He's had 22 fights, 18 knockouts, but his level of opposition has been horrendous. It's been horrendous, if I'm being honest. So, look, he comes to fight, he'll have a crack, he likes to throw bombs, make no mistake about that. But again, the opposition he's coming up against have been very average, and it's easy to line people up and throw bombs at them when they're pretty much not throwing back or don't really know how to throw back. Jai Opetaia knows how to throw back. And just the way he comes in, chin up in the air, he really telegraphs his punches. Not quite sure of his stamina, because a lot of his fights haven't really gone a long distance, and even the ones that have, he's pretty much dominated because of that level of competition. I see Jai picking him apart. Look, he might be okay for a couple of rounds, but I just think as the fight goes on, I just think this guy's going to be target practice for Jai Opetaia. I expect Jai to really take him apart as the fight goes on, as he finds his range and timing and everything else. And I would suspect that Jai will get the job done in 6 or 7 rounds. Good fight for him though. As I said, this guy is tough and he'll come to fight. He's a big guy, likes to throw down, but again, chin up in the air, telegraphing the punches. That just spells just danger against a fighter the calibre of Jai Opetaia. So I'm thinking it's a good fight for Jai, because in the meantime you've got Bill Smith and Ramirez. That's probably the biggest fight, is against the winner of that fight coming up for Jai. So I don't mind him taking this fight with Sin Cara, satisfy the IBF, get a good tune-up under your belt, and fight, hopefully, the winner of that. And if he doesn't fight the winner of that, if they don't want to borrow Jai, then move up. That's what I would do. Move up to heavyweight and start the process. He's at a good age now, and maybe it might be a little ahead of schedule, so maybe he could just maybe ease into the heavyweight division a little bit and get a few lesser lights, fighters ranked sort of 15 to sort of 30, get 2 or 3 of them, and then maybe step it up from there. But I just can't wait for Jai to go to heavyweight. I think he's got a lot to offer. And can't wait to see what he can do at the weight. So that, I'm not quite sure there's been any mention of dates or anything like that. You would suspect it's going to be on a Riyadh card, maybe February on that Riyadh card. But I think actually that might be the time he has to defend it from memory. But yeah, good, not a bad fight for Jai. Good tune-up, as I said. And I don't think Shinkara really offers a lot apart from being a big, strong guy who's going to bring it to Jai and give him a good fight. A good 6, 7, 8 rounds, whatever it might be. His stablemate, Justice Huni, keep a look out for this one. I think tomorrow there's going to be a press conference, which is Wednesday, October 30th. There'll be a press conference announcing Justice Huni's next fight. He's actually going to have a double header with Conor Wallace. Now, there's no mention about who the fighters are. I'm sure that'll be revealed at the press conference, but I did see that that is scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday, October 30. So I'm sure it'll be on Facebook Live or something like that. They usually put it on there, or maybe the website, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, Justice Huni and Conor Wallace in a double header. I would assume it might be before the end of the year. They normally give about 8 weeks notice, or 6 to 8 weeks notice for these type of fight, so you would suspect that would be before the end of the year. So that should be good. What else was I going to talk about? Now there's as I say, the jungle drums are beating. That looks like it will be Chris Eubank Jr. in with Canelo Alvarez in May. I'm not quite sure what to feel about this one. Look, if it was in England and there's a big crowd that was going to be generated, that's awesome. But yeah, I'm just not feeling it. I know Chris Eubank used to be a super middleweight, now he's a middleweight. Didn't look great in his last fight. I understand that maybe if Canelo wants to fight in England, it's probably a good fight for him. They'll probably get 40 or 50,000 there, and obviously everyone gets paid and it's all good. And I'm not sure whether Eddie Hearn would be back in the mix, but it looks like that the wheels are in motion for Canelo and Chris Eubank Jr. And I just don't see it as a competitive fight. After what I saw with Eubank's last fight, yeah, he looked okay, but again, his level of opposition wasn't overly great, nowhere near obviously Canelo's standard. And I just think it's another easy beat down for Canelo. I really do. I don't think Chris Eubank has anything to offer whatsoever in that fight apart from his appeal and his name. I think Chris Eubank Jr. would be better off fighting that other peanut, Conor Ben. But it's all about money, isn't it? So it's interesting though that because I think he did say actually that he was struggling with the 160-pound limit in his last fight, which is why it wasn't the most exciting and inspiring fight from Chris Eubank Jr. I don't know. Look, sometimes these guys pull out a performance for the ages. We've seen that in the past, but Canelo Alvarez is not the type of fighter that sort of happens to, and I just think again it's easy pickings for him. And what next for Canelo Alvarez? I mean, with Benavidez and Morrell now out of the picture, at least for the time being, and Bivol and Beterbiev probably not really looking to fight Canelo either. Of course, Beterbiev has got his mandatory coming up against Eifert or whatever his name is, and then Bivol will have a tune-up and they'll fight each other in October next year. So you'd probably rule that fight out. So really, you would think that next year, the dance card, as I say, of Canelo Alvarez, could it be Chris Eubank Jr. and then probably Christian and Billy? That's probably the only fight I can probably see, and maybe the other upside to that in that time is that maybe someone like a Janibek Alam Kanuli is going up to 168 and he could be in there as well. But geez, if it's not Terence Crawford, I just don't, or Bivol or Beterbiev or Benavidez and Morrell, lots of B's in there, lots of Davids. I just don't see where Canelo Alvarez goes from here. That's saying something considering he is the face of boxing and the biggest name in the sport. So yeah, some interesting times, but look, guys, that is probably about it for today. I know it's not the most exciting episode, but just calling it as I see it, especially to you Mike Tyson fans out there. I'm sure you can't wait for a couple of weeks' time when he locks horns with Jake Paul. I don't want to see it. I really don't want to see it. And as I said, I just don't want in 30, 40, 50 years' time You know, we talk about Ali's legacy now and what a great fighter he was. That, you know, we're not talking about Mike Tyson as far as, oh, you remember him, he lost to Jake Paul. So look, but then again, Muhammad Ali did have those really bad late career losses to Larry Holmes and Trevor Berbick. So maybe we might forget about that for Mike Tyson. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But guys, that is it. Hope you have a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll catch you tomorrow.